My name is Margaret. I am 70 years old, and at Christmas dinner, my own children handed me an eviction notice for the house I built with my own 2 hands. But what they did not know was that I already had an ace up my sleeve, one that would change everything in a matter of days. Listen to this story until the end, and tell me if you would have done the same thing I did. Because sometimes, when family stabs you in the back, the only thing left to do is show them who you really are. And believe me, what comes next is going to leave you speechless. It was December 24th, close to 8 in the evening. The table was set with the runner I quilted 30 years ago, the one with pink and yellow flowers on the corners. I had prepared everything since the day before: the turkey stuffed with my mother's recipe, the roasted potatoes with rosemary, and the apple pie they loved so much when they were kids. I spent hours in the kitchen, with knees that do not hold up like they used to, but I did it with love. I always did it with love. My son Ryan arrived first with his wife Brittany and my 2 grandsons, Connor and Tyler. The boys ran in like always, but this time Brittany stopped them dead in their tracks. They did not hug me. They did not say Merry Christmas. She had taught them to treat me as if I were invisible in my own home. Ryan did not even look me in the eye when he walked in. He sat at the head of the table, in the spot where his father, my late husband, may he rest in peace, always Saturday. I swallowed hard and smiled, because over the years, you learn to hide pain behind a smile. Brittany was wearing an emerald green dress, that kind of green that screams money even if you do not have it. She sat next to Ryan and took out her phone. She set it on the table, pointing it right at me. I did not understand what was happening, but something in my gut told me this night would be different. I served dinner with trembling hands. I placed the turkey in the center, the side dishes around it, the fresh-baked rolls that were still steaming. No one said thank you. No one commented on how good the food looked. The only sound was the noise of silverware against plates. Then Ryan cleared his throat. He set his fork aside and looked at me with cold eyes I no longer recognized. He was no longer my little boy, the one who cried in my arms when he had nightmares, the one who told me I was the best mom in the world. Now he was a stranger. "Mom, I need to talk to you," he said with a firm voice. Brittany smiled. It was that smile she had directed at me hundreds of times over the last 3 years. That smile that said, "I have you exactly where I want you." I put down my plate and looked at him, waiting. Ryan pulled a folded paper from his shirt pocket. He slid it across the table until it was right in front of me. "It is an eviction notice," he said without blinking. "This house is ours now. You have 72 hours to get your things and leave." I felt like I had been punched in the chest. The air escaped my lungs. My hands started shaking so badly I had to put them under the table so they wouldn't notice. I looked at the paper. There it was, in black, official letters, a notice giving me 3 days to abandon the home I built brick by brick. Brittany laughed, a soft laugh, almost musical, but full of venom. "Oh, mother-in-law, do not make that face. You are too old to live alone in such a big house. It is better this way. We will take care of everything. You can go to a nursing home. You will be better looked after there." Connor and Tyler looked at their plates. I could see they were uncomfortable, but they said nothing. She had trained them well. Ryan kept that hard look, as if I were a problem he had to solve and not the woman who gave him life. Brittany lifted her phone and focused the camera directly on my face. "I want to record your reaction," she said with that sweet, fake voice. "This is going to be so funny to show my girlfriends. Look how the old lady gets when we tell her she does not have a house anymore." I took a deep breath. I felt something break inside me, but it was not weakness. It was something different. It was clarity. I took the paper calmly, folded it again, and put it in my apron pocket. "Thank you for letting me know," I said with a voice steadier than I expected. "I will excuse myself from the table now. Enjoy your dinner." I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I did not fall. I walked to my bedroom while listening to Brittany's laughter behind me. Ryan said nothing. Not a word to stop me. Not an apology. Nothing. I closed my bedroom door and sat on the bed I shared with my husband for 40 years. The tears wanted to come out, but I stopped them. I was not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken, because they did not know something. They had no idea what I had kept secret all these years. And that night, while they celebrated my humiliation, I began to plan my masterstroke. But to understand everything that happened next, I need to take you back in time. I need to tell you who I was before I became the old woman they could trample on. I need you to know my story, because only then will you understand why what I did next was absolutely necessary. I was not always this 70-year-old woman with gray hair and wrinkled hands. There was a time when I was young, strong, and full of dreams. I was born in a town so small it did not even appear on the maps, somewhere deep in the Midwest. My family was poor, that kind of poverty that makes you go to sleep hungry more nights than you care to remember. We were 7 siblings, and I was the oldest. My father worked in the fields from sunrise to sunset, and even so, the money was never enough. My mother took in other people's laundry to earn a few extra dollars, and I helped her since I was 8 years old. My hands cracked from the soap and cold water, but I never complained. I learned as a child that life gives you nothing for free, that everything you want, you have to tear from the world with sweat and tears. At 15, I left school, not because I wanted to, but because my family needed me working. I got a job at a garment factory, sewing dresses I could never afford to buy. They paid me $3 a day for 12 hours of work. My fingers bled when the needles pricked me, but I kept going because my household depended on that money. Every penny I earned, I gave to my mother. I kept nothing for myself. Not for a candy bar, not for a soda, nothing. Those were hard years. The kind that toughen your soul and teach you that in this world, you either get strong or get destroyed. I met my husband when I was 18. His name was Arthur, just like my late father. He was a good man, hardworking, with calloused hands and a smile that made me forget all the hardships. He worked in construction, framing houses for others while dreaming of having his own someday. We fell in love fast, in that intense way you only can when you are young, and believe love conquers all. We got married 6 months later in a simple ceremony. I wore a white dress borrowed from my cousin, and he wore a suit that was too big for him. We had nothing, just love and the desire to build something together. We rented a tiny room in the old part of the city. It did not have big windows, just a skylight where a ray of sun came in during the mornings. But it was ours. That is where our life began. The first year was beautiful despite the poverty. Arthur left for work before dawn and came back when it was already dark, tired, but always with a smile for me. I kept sewing, now from home, fixing neighbors' clothes for a few dollars here and there. We ate little, but we had each other. When I got pregnant with Ryan, I felt the world light up. Arthur cried tears of happiness when I told him. That night he hugged me and promised that our son would never go through the needs we went through, that he would work double, triple if necessary, but our boy would have everything. And he kept that promise. Good Lord, did he keep it. He worked until exhaustion every day of his life for us. Ryan was born in August, a beautiful baby with big eyes and a strong cry. I had him at home because we did not have money for the hospital. A midwife from the neighborhood helped me. It was 18 hours of pain, but when I held him in my arms, it was all worth it. Arthur wept with emotion looking at his son. He held him so carefully, as if he were made of glass, and whispered in his ear that he was going to protect him always. The first years were a constant struggle. Ryan was a baby who cried a lot at night. I did not sleep. Between breastfeeding him, taking care of him, and continuing to sew to help with expenses, there were days I did not even know what time it was. Arthur arrived so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, but he always found the strength to hold Ryan and rock him until he fell asleep. We were poor, but we were happy. We had love. We had purpose. We had dreams. When Ryan turned 5, Arthur arrived one night, with eyes shining with excitement. "Margaret," he said, taking my hands, "I found a lot. It is on the outskirts of the city. It is big. It has trees. We can build our house there. Our own house." I could not believe it. A piece of land. A home of our own. It seemed like an impossible dream. But Arthur had already thought it all through. He had spoken with the owner and agreed to pay it off in monthly installments over 5 years. It was $150 a month. A fortune for us. but he was determined. "We are going to do it," he told me, with that determination that defined him. "We are going to give Ryan a real home." And so began the hardest stage of our lives. Arthur took extra jobs on the weekends. I sewed until my fingers hurt so much I could not hold the needle. We saved every cent. We stopped buying meat. We ate beans, rice, canned soup, the basics. Ryan wore clothes that I altered from used garments I found at the market. He never complained. He was a noble, grateful child. He knew his parents were fighting for something big. For 5 years, we paid for that land religiously. There were months when we did not know where the money was going to come from, but it always appeared. I sold baked goods on Sundays on the corner. Arthur worked 18 hours some days. We got sick from exhaustion, but we did not stop. And when we finally finished paying, when that land was officially ours, we cried in each other's arms. We had done it. Now came the hardest part, building the house. We did not have money to hire contractors, so Arthur decided to do it himself. On weekends, the 3 of us went to the lot. Arthur laid the bricks one by one, while Ryan and I helped him carry sand and water. It was years of slow construction. Every wall that went up was a victory. Every window installed was a dream materializing. I watched my husband work under the burning sun, his back soaked in sweat, and I felt a love so deep my chest hurt. That man was building our future with his own hands. Ryan grew up seeing that sacrifice, seeing his father work until exhaustion, seeing me sew until late at night. He was a studious, responsible boy. He always got good grades. He told us that when he grew up, he was going to work hard so we would not have to anymore. Those words gave us the strength to keep going. Finally, after 7 years, the house was ready. It was not a mansion. It was a simple 2-story house, 3 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a living room. But it was ours. Completely ours. The day we moved in was the happiest of my life. Arthur carried me across the threshold in his arms, just like on our wedding day. Ryan ran through the whole house, excited, shouting that we had our own house. That night we ate dinner on the floor because we still did not have furniture, but we did not care. We were masters of our home. The following years were the best of my life. Arthur continued working hard, but no longer with that desperation from before. Now he worked to improve our house, to give Ryan comforts, to live with dignity. I kept sewing, but now I had my own space, a small room Arthur set up as a studio for me. I spent afternoons there fixing neighbors' clothes, making prom dresses, wedding suits. I became known in the neighborhood. People said my hands were blessed, that everything I sewed turned out perfect. And so, little by little, we started living better. We were not rich, we never were, but we had enough. We had peace. We had love. We had a united family. Ryan finished school with excellent grades. He got a scholarship to study business administration at the state university. Arthur and I cried with pride the day he was accepted. Our son was going to be a professional. He was going to have the opportunities we never had. All the sacrifice had been worth it. During his college years, Ryan lived with us. Every morning he got up early to take 2 buses to campus. He studied late into the night. I prepared his meals, did his laundry, made sure he had everything necessary to concentrate on his studies. Arthur gave him money for his fare and his books. We never asked him to work. We wanted him to focus completely on his education. And he did. He was a responsible, affectionate boy. On Sundays, he helped us with house chores. He liked cooking with Arthur, fixing things that broke. I still remember when he bought me my first washing machine with his first paycheck from a summer job. "Mom, you are never going to wash by hand again," he told me with eyes full of emotion. I cried so much that day. My son was a good man. A decent man, or so I believed. When Ryan was 23, Arthur started feeling unwell. At first, we thought it was the accumulated fatigue of so many years of heavy labor. His chest hurt. He ran out of breath when climbing the stairs. I begged him to go to the doctor, but he always said he was fine, that he just needed to rest a little. Until one night, while we were having dinner, he collapsed at the table. Ryan and I rushed him to the hospital. Those were the longest hours of my life, waiting in that cold room while the doctors checked him. When the doctor came out, I saw on his face that the news was not good. "Your husband has a very weakened heart," he said with a serious voice. "He has worked too hard for too many years. His body is exhausted. He needs absolute rest and medication for life." Arthur was in the hospital for 3 days. When he came home, he was no longer the strong man I knew. He looked fragile, tired, defeated. He had to stop working in construction. The doctors forbade him from doing physical exertion. Those were hard times again. Without Arthur's salary, the money was not enough. Ryan had just graduated, but he still had not found a steady job. I increased my sewing hours. I accepted any job that came along. Dresses, pants, curtains, whatever. I worked from 6 in the morning until midnight. My eyes got tired, my back hurt, but I could not stop. We had to pay for Arthur's medications, which cost almost $200 a month. We had to eat. We had to survive. Arthur suffered seeing me work like that. He felt useless, guilty for not being able to help. I told him to rest, that his health was the most important thing, but I saw him wasting away in that sadness of not being able to provide for his family. Ryan finally got a job at a company as an administrative assistant. He did not earn much, barely $800 a month back then, but he helped with what he could. He bought groceries, paid some bills. He was a good son. He was still my good boy. 5 years passed like that. 5 years in which Arthur faded little by little like a candle. His heart grew weaker every time. The doctors said he had done too much damage to his body with so many years of excessive work. I took care of him day and night. I gave him his medicines, prepared special meals, lay down next to him praying to God to leave him with me a little longer. But God had other plans. One early morning in March, Arthur left while he slept. It was peaceful, quiet, without pain. I woke up and found him cold beside me. I screamed so loud that Ryan came running from his room. My husband, my life partner, the man who built this house with his own hands, was gone forever. He was 58 years old. He had worked until he destroyed his heart to give us a home, and now he was gone. The funeral was simple. We did not have money for something big. The neighbors came, some of Arthur's co-workers, my family from out of town. Ryan was devastated. He had lost his hero, the man who taught him everything about hard work and dignity. I was in shock. I could not believe Arthur was gone, that I would never again hear his voice, feel his hugs, see him smile. The first months after his death were horrible. There were nights I could not sleep. I got up and walked through the house, touching the walls he built, looking at every corner he had made with so much love. This house was Arthur's legacy. It was his materialized dream. And I swore that never, ever would I allow anyone to take it from me. 1 week after the funeral, while organizing Arthur's papers, I found something that left me frozen. In an old box kept in the closet, there were deeds to 3 lots of land, 3 properties I did not know existed. The papers were in Arthur's name. They were lots he had bought 20 years ago when we were building the house. They were located in an area that back then was rural, far from everything. But now, 20 years later, that zone was completely developed. There were shopping malls, buildings, businesses. Those lots were worth a fortune. I did not understand how Arthur had managed to buy those lots without me knowing. Then I found a letter. A letter he had left for me, with my name written on the envelope. I opened it with trembling hands. "My beloved Margaret," it said, "if you are reading this, it is because I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you about these lots. I bought them with extra money I earned working nights for several years. I wanted to give you a surprise when they increased in value. I wanted you to have financial security if something happened to me. These lots are yours. Sell them when necessary. Use them to live peacefully. Do not allow anyone to take advantage of you. You are the strongest woman I know. I love you forever. Arthur." I cried so much reading that letter. My husband, even after death, continued taking care of me, continued protecting me. Those lots were my salvation. But I decided not to tell anyone, not even Ryan. Something inside me told me I should keep that secret. And thank God I did. Months passed, and I kept living off my sewing. Ryan continued working and living with me. It was just the 2 of us now. One night he came home with a huge smile. "Mom, I have news," he told me. "I met someone. Her name is Brittany. She is amazing. I think she is the love of my life. I was happy for him. My son deserved to be happy. He deserved to find love like I found with his father. Brittany came to dinner the following week. She was a young woman, 28 years old, dressed in fancy clothes. She wore a bright orange suit and high heels. She talked a lot, laughed loudly, seemed sure of herself. I tried to be kind, prepared my best meal, asked her questions about her life. But something about her unsettled me. The way she looked at the house, as if evaluating every item. The way she treated Ryan, giving him subtle orders. Do this, bring that, and he obeyed like a trained puppy. Ryan and Brittany began dating formally. At first, everything seemed normal. He came to visit often, told me how things were going, looked happy, but as the months went by, I noticed changes in my son. He started coming less. When he came, he no longer stayed to eat with me like before. He was always in a rush, always had to leave because Brittany was waiting for him. One day, I asked him if everything was okay, and he answered dryly, "Yes, Mom, everything is perfect. It is just that now I have a partner, and I must dedicate time to her. You cannot expect me to always be here with you." His words hurt, but I tried to understand. It was true. He had a right to his own life, his own relationship. I did not want to be that possessive mother who does not let her children grow up. So I stayed quiet and accepted that things were changing. 6 months into the courtship, Ryan told me they were getting married. It was sudden news. I thought it was too soon, that they barely knew each other, but he was determined. "Brittany is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with, Mom," he said firmly. "The wedding will be in 3 months. I hope you are happy for me." "Of course I am happy," I replied, although in my heart there was a strange sensation, like a premonition that something was wrong. But he was my son, and if he was happy, I had to support him. I began helping with the wedding preparations. I offered to sew Brittany's wedding dress. I thought it would be a nice gesture, a way to get closer to her, to build a good mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. But when I proposed it, she looked at me as if I had offered her an old rag. "No thanks, Margaret," she said with a fake smile. "I already have a dress reserved at a boutique in the city. It is a very exclusive designer. I do not think you could make something like that." I swallowed the humiliation and just nodded. "Okay, whatever you prefer," I told her with a soft voice. The wedding was elegant. Brittany had insisted on having it in an expensive hall that cost more than $15,000. Ryan had to take out a loan to pay for it. I offered to help with the money I had saved from my sewing, but Brittany refused. "It is not necessary," she said. "Ryan can handle it. It is his responsibility as a man." I sat at the ceremony watching my son marry a woman he barely knew. Brittany looked beautiful in her pearly white dress, smiling for all the photos. But when it was my turn to take a photo with them, she made a face of annoyance. "Just one quick photo," she told the photographer. "We do not want too many with the family." That night, I cried in my empty house. For the first time in my life, I felt I was losing my son, that this woman was pulling him away from me little by little. After the wedding, Ryan and Brittany rented a small apartment downtown. I thought they would live there and build their life together. But 3 months later, Ryan arrived at my house with a proposal. "Mom, I need to talk to you," he said, sitting in the living room. "The apartment where we live is very small and the rent is very expensive. We are paying $1,200 a month and barely have enough for other things. Brittany and I were thinking we could come live here with you. The house is big, you have empty rooms. It would be temporary, just until we save to buy something of our own." My first instinct was to say no. This house was my refuge, my space, Arthur's legacy. But I looked into my son's eyes and saw exhaustion, worry. He was struggling financially, and I was his mother. How was I going to deny him help? "All right," I told him. "You can come, but only temporarily." Ryan smiled and hugged me. "Thanks, Mom. You are the best." I promise it will not be for long. They moved in 2 weeks later. They brought their things in a truck. I gave them the biggest room on the 2nd floor, the one with the private bathroom. I cleaned everything, put on new sheets, placed fresh flowers so they would feel welcome. I thought it would be nice to have company again, that the house would not feel so empty. But from the first day, Brittany started changing things. "This is very old," she would say, pointing to the furniture Arthur and I had bought with so much effort. "We need to renovate everything. This house looks like it's from the 50s. She started moving things around without asking me. She took down the photos of Arthur that I had in the living room. "They are very sad," she said. "This house needs new energy, not memories of dead people." When I asked her to put the photos back, she looked at me with contempt. "You are no longer the only one who lives here, Margaret. Now we are a family, and decisions are made by everyone." Ryan said nothing. He just looked at the floor like a scolded child. The first months were tense but manageable. I tried to keep the peace. I cooked for them, did their laundry, cleaned the house. I did everything I could so they would feel comfortable. But nothing was enough for Brittany. The food was too salty or too bland. The house was never clean enough. I made too much noise in the mornings when I got up early. Every day there was a new complaint. And Ryan, my son, who used to defend me from everything, now stayed silent. Sometimes he even scolded me. "Mom, try to make less noise, please. Brittany needs to sleep." "Mom, do not cook that. Brittany does not like it." "Mom, do not play music. It bothers Brittany." Everything was Brittany. She had become the center of the universe, and I, in my own house, was becoming invisible. 1 year after they moved in, Brittany got pregnant. Ryan was happy. He was going to be a father. I got emotional too. I was going to be a grandmother. I thought that maybe a baby would soften Brittany, that motherhood would make her more understanding, more human. But I was wrong. The pregnancy made her worse. Everything bothered her. She could not smell my perfume because it gave her nausea. She could not watch soaps on TV because the noise upset her. I could not sew in my studio because the sound of the machine made her nervous. Basically, I could not exist in my own house. I had to lock myself in my room most of the day so as not to disturb her. And when I commented to Ryan that this was too much, that I also had a right to live peacefully, he exploded. "She is pregnant, Mom. She is going through something difficult. You should be more understanding instead of complaining. You already had your life, now let us have ours." Connor was born in April. A beautiful baby with rosy cheeks and dark eyes like his father. I cried when I saw him for the first time. He was the spitting image of Ryan when he was born. I offered to help take care of him, get up at night, change his diapers. But Brittany would not even let me get close. "I do not want you to spoil him with your old ways," she told me. "I know how to take care of my son. I do not need your help." 2 years later, Tyler was born, another precious boy. I was excited to have 2 grandsons, but Brittany built a wall between them and me. The children could not spend time with me alone. If I gave them candy, she scolded me. If I bought them toys, she said I was spoiling them. If they looked for me to play, she pushed them away. "Grandma is busy," she told them. "Come with Mommy." So my grandsons grew up, meters away from me, but completely unreachable. What started as a temporary situation became permanent. Ryan and Brittany never saved to leave. In fact, Ryan stopped giving me money for household expenses. I kept paying for the water, electricity, gas, food. They only paid for their cell phones and personal things. When I asked them to help with the bills, Brittany looked at me as if I were a beggar. "We are living in your house, Margaret, but we are also keeping you company. An old woman like you should be grateful not to live alone. Besides, we have 2 children to support. We cannot be giving money to you, too." Ryan nodded at everything she said. I stayed quiet because I no longer recognized the man my son had become. The boy who promised to take care of me always had disappeared. In his place was a stranger who allowed his wife to humiliate me day after day in the house his own father built with blood and sweat. The following years were a slow descent into hell. Brittany stopped hiding her contempt for me. There were no longer moments of forced courtesy or fake smiles. She treated me as if I were the housemaid. "Margaret, the kitchen is dirty. Clean it." "Margaret, the kids need clean clothes." "Margaret, you made too much noise last night." We could not sleep. Every order, every complaint, every look of disgust was a stab wound, and Ryan simply allowed everything. He had become a submissive husband, a man without a spine who chose the peace of his marriage over the dignity of his mother. There was a moment when I tried to talk to him alone. "Son, we need to talk," I told him one afternoon when Brittany had gone out with the kids. "This cannot go on like this. This is my house, and you are treating me like an intruder." Ryan looked at me coldly. "Mom, I am tired of your complaints. Brittany is right. You are always looking for problems. You should be grateful we are here with you. At your age, living alone is dangerous. We are taking care of you." Those words broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. My son, the boy I raised with all my love, was telling me I was the problem. I began to feel like a prisoner in my own home. I got up early, before they woke up, so as not to bother them. I prepared breakfast in silence, left everything ready, and locked myself in my room. I only came out when necessary. I stopped watching TV in the living room because that was Brittany's territory. I stopped cooking my favorite meals because she did not like the smells. I stopped inviting my friends from the neighborhood because Brittany said they made too much of a racket. Little by little I was disappearing, making myself small, invisible, trying to take up the least space possible in the home I myself had raised alongside Arthur. There were nights when I stared at the walls of my room and wept in silence. I talked to Arthur as if he were still there. "Love, what do I do?" I whispered to the darkness. "Our son is no longer the same. This woman changed him. I do not know what to do." And in those moments of absolute loneliness, I remembered the letter Arthur had left me. "Do not allow anyone to take advantage of you," it said. "You are the strongest woman I know." But I did not feel strong. I felt broken, defeated, finished. The children grew up without really knowing me. Connor and Tyler saw me as an old woman who lived in the house, nothing more. Brittany had made sure to create that distance. When they were little and ran toward me with open arms, she stopped them. "Do not bother Grandma. She is tired. Go play in your room." If I bought them something, she hid it or threw it away. If I tried to tell them stories about their grandfather, she interrupted me. "The children do not need to hear sad things from the past," she said. "They need to focus on the present." So my grandsons grew up without knowing who had built that house, without knowing how much their grandfather had struggled, without knowing that every brick in those walls represented sweat, tears, and love. To them, I was just a background figure, someone who existed but did not matter. And that hurt more than all of Brittany's humiliations combined. Seeing my own grandsons look at me with indifference was like dying a little every day. 3 years before that terrible Christmas, Brittany started talking about how the house should be in Ryan's name. She mentioned it during dinners, as if it were a casual conversation. "This house is too big for one person," she would say, staring at me. "When you are no longer here, Margaret, it should pass automatically to Ryan. He is your only son. It is logical. It would be easier if it were already in his name starting now. We would avoid legal problems later." I felt a chill every time she brought up the topic. "This house is not in anyone's name but mine," I answered firmly. "Arthur and I built it, and as long as I live, it will be mine." Brittany smiled with that poisonous smile. "Oh, Margaret, do not get like that. I am only thinking about the future. You are already 70 years old. It is not morbid, it is realistic." Ryan never defended me. He stayed quiet, eating his food, as if the conversation was not with him. But I saw in his eyes that he agreed with his wife, that he also thought I should hand over the house to them. Things got worse when Brittany stopped working. She had worked as a receptionist in an office, earning about $900 a month. But one day she arrived and announced she had quit. "I am tired of working for others," she said, reclining on the sofa. "Besides, with the kids growing, I need to be home more. Ryan will have to earn more money." And so it was. Ryan began working overtime. He arrived home exhausted at 10 at night. Meanwhile, Brittany spent the whole day watching TV, talking on the phone with her friends, going shopping with money they did not have. And when I suggested that maybe she should look for work again to help with expenses, she looked at me as if I had said the worst offense. "I do not need advice from someone who spent her life sewing old clothes," she answered with contempt. "I have an education. I have dignity. I am not going to kill myself working like you did. You preferred to be a slave your whole life, and look where you ended up, alone and bitter." Every insult from Brittany was worse than the last. She called me a useless old woman, a hindrance, a burden. She said I consumed too much food, wasted too much water, that the electric bill was high because of me. One day she even had the nerve to charge me for using the washing machine. "It is $3 per load," she told me. "If you want to wash your clothes, you have to pay like everyone else." I could not believe what I was hearing. It was my house, my washing machine that I had bought with my money, but this woman was charging me to use it. I gave her the $3 in silence because I no longer had the strength to fight. Every battle I tried to fight, I lost. Ryan always took Brittany's side. He always found a way to justify her abuse. "She is stressed, Mom. Raising 2 kids is not easy. You have to be more patient with her." Patient. That word became the most hated in my vocabulary. How much more patience was I supposed to have while they trampled me in my own home? There was an incident that almost broke me completely. It was Connor's birthday, my oldest grandson. He was turning 12. I had saved for months to buy him a bicycle. A beautiful red bicycle with gears. It had cost me $250. Almost everything I had earned sewing that month. But I wanted to give my grandson something special. I wanted him to know his grandmother loved him, even though she would not let me show it often. On the day of his birthday, I brought down the wrapped bicycle. Connor was in the living room with his friends. When he saw the gift, his eyes lit up. He opened the paper and shouted with excitement, "A bike! It's just what I wanted!" He ran to me to hug me. "Thanks, Grandma, you're the best." For a moment, just for a moment, I felt it was all worth it. I felt I had managed to connect with my grandson. But then Brittany walked into the living room. Her face turned red with fury. "What is this?" she screamed, pointing at the bicycle. "Who gave you permission to buy something so expensive for Connor?" "I am his mother. I decide what gifts he receives." I tried to explain that it was just a birthday gift, that I had bought it with my own money. But she did not want to listen. She grabbed the bicycle and took it out of the house. She put it in the garage and put a padlock on it. "Connor is not going to use this," she said. "Not until you learn to respect my authority as a mother. You cannot go around buying him things without my permission." Connor was crying. The other children looked uncomfortable. I felt like dying of shame and pain. Ryan arrived at that moment, and instead of defending me, he defended Brittany. "Mom, she is right. You should have consulted us before buying something so big. Now Connor is spoiled, and all his friends saw the show." That day, something broke inside me. That night I cried until I fell asleep. And for the first time in my life, I felt hate. Real hate toward the woman who had stolen my son and my grandsons. The following months were more of the same. Humiliation after humiliation. Insult after insult. And I endured it because I did not know what else to do. I had nowhere to go. My siblings lived far away and had their own problems. My friends were elderly like me. They could not help me. And the house, my beloved house that Arthur built, had become my prison. But then that Christmas arrived. That damn Christmas that would change everything. I had prepared dinner like always, trying to create a nice family atmosphere. I thought maybe, just maybe, the Christmas spirit would soften their hearts. How wrong I was. When Ryan took out that folded paper and handed it to me, when Brittany took out her phone to record my humiliation, when they told me I had 72 hours to get the hell out of my own house, something changed in me. I no longer felt sadness or fear. I felt absolute clarity. I felt Arthur's voice in my head telling me, "Enough is enough. It is time to fight. It is time to use what I left you. It is time to show them who you really are." That night, after closing my bedroom door, I did not cry. For the first time in years, I did not shed a single tear. I sat on my bed and took out the box where I kept the documents Arthur had left me. There were the papers for the 3 lots, my husband's letter, and some savings I had accumulated in secret all these years. I counted the money. I had exactly $23,000 in cash saved up. Money I had saved penny by penny from my sewing work, hiding it where no one could find it. Plus the lots which, according to the last appraisals I had checked a year ago, were worth around $180,000 in total. I was not the poor and defenseless old woman they believed. I had resources. I had power. And it was time to use it. The next morning I got up early. It was 6 in the morning, and the house was still silent. I dressed in my best clothes, a pearl gray outfit I had sewn for myself but never worn. I combed my hair, put on light makeup, looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back was no longer yesterday's scared old lady. It was Margaret, the woman who survived poverty, who raised a family, who built a home with her own hands. It was time to remember who I really was. I took the important documents, put them in my purse, and left the house without making noise. No one noticed I was gone. To them, I was invisible anyway. I took a cab to downtown. I had a clear mission. I needed a lawyer, and I needed a good one. I arrived at an office building in the financial district. I had searched online the night before and found the law firm Miller and Associates. They had good reviews and specialized in property and inheritance cases. I went up to the 5th floor and entered an elegant office with hardwood floors and modern furniture. A young receptionist looked at me with some surprise. I suppose she did not expect to see a 70-year-old woman dressed simply asking for legal services. "Good morning," I told her with a firm voice. "I need to speak with a lawyer. It is urgent." She asked me to wait, and after a few minutes showed me into an office where a man of about 45 was waiting, graying at the temples, in an impeccable dark coffee-colored suit. "Good morning, ma'am. I am Charles Miller," he said, extending his hand. "How can I help you?" I sat in front of him and began to tell him the whole story. I showed him the eviction notice Ryan had given me. I explained that the house was in my name, that I was the legal owner, that my son and his wife lived there without paying rent or utilities. I told him about the years of abuse, the humiliations, how they treated me in my own home. Charles listened attentively, taking notes. When I finished speaking, he reviewed all the documents I had brought. The title to the house, the papers for the lots, everything. After a few minutes, he looked up and looked at me seriously. "Mrs. Margaret, let me tell you something. This eviction notice they gave you has no legal validity. Absolutely none. The house is in your name. You are the sole owner. They cannot evict you. In fact, you could evict them whenever you wanted." I felt immense relief hearing those words. "So I can get my house back?" I asked him. "Of course you can," replied Charles. "But we need to do it right, legally, so they cannot claim anything later." Charles explained the process. First, we needed to send a formal legal notification to Ryan and Brittany informing them they must vacate the property. We would give them 30 days to leave voluntarily. If they did not, we would proceed with an eviction lawsuit that a judge would approve without issue, given that I was the owner and they were occupants without a contract. Furthermore, he suggested something else. "Mrs. Margaret, I see you have other considerable assets. These 3 lots are worth a fortune. My recommendation is that we organize your entire estate into a trust or a very clear will. That way you decide exactly what happens with your properties when you are no longer here, and you can set the conditions you want. For example, you can leave it to your grandsons but not your son, or you can donate everything to a charity if you wish. It is your right." Those words opened a world of possibilities for me. I could protect my heritage. I could make sure Brittany never put her hands on what Arthur and I built. We spent the next 2 hours organizing everything. Charles drafted the necessary documents. A formal notice to vacate. A new will where I made it very clear that the house and one of the lots would be for my grandsons, Connor and Tyler, when they turned 25, administered by a trust until then. The other 2 lots would be sold, and the money donated to a nursing home I knew, where they treated the grandparents with dignity and respect. Ryan would receive nothing, absolutely nothing, and Brittany, much less. Charles looked at me with respect when I signed all the papers. "Mrs. Margaret, let me tell you I admire your bravery. Not many people in your situation have the courage to defend themselves like this. You are doing the right thing." His words gave me strength. I paid him for his services. It was $2,500 for all the legal work, money well spent. He told me that in 2 days he would have all the official documents ready, and that he personally would take care of delivering them to my house. "I want to be present when you give them to them," I told him. "I want to see their faces." I left that office feeling lighter than I had felt in years. I walked through the downtown streets aimlessly, just enjoying the feeling of freedom. I stopped at a coffee shop and bought a coffee and a pastry. It had been years since I treated myself. I sat by the window watching people pass by. I thought of Arthur. "I know you would be proud of me, love," I whispered to my coffee. "I am fighting. I am using what you left me. I am no longer the scared woman who lets herself be trampled." I finished my coffee and decided to do something else. I went to a real estate agency. "I want to see apartments for rent," I told the agent. "Something small but nice. Just for me." She showed me several options, and I found a perfect one. A one-bedroom apartment in a building for seniors. It had security, common areas. They even organized activities for residents. The rent was $600 a month, something I could easily pay with my savings and my pension. "I'll take it," I told the agent. I signed the contract that same day. I would move in a week. The next 2 days were strange. I went back to the house and acted completely normal. Ryan and Brittany had no idea what I had done. Brittany was particularly unbearable, giving me orders constantly. "Margaret, pack your things already. Time is running out. You only have 48 hours left." I just nodded and smiled. "Yes, Brittany, whatever you say." She interpreted my calm as resignation. She commented to Ryan that night. "I heard them from my room. Your mother already gave up. She is not even fighting. Surely she already found some cheap nursing home to check into. Better for us. Finally, we will have the whole house for our family." Ryan mumbled something I did not catch, but I did not care. Let them think what they wanted. They would see reality very soon. That night I slept better than I had slept in years. I dreamed of Arthur. In the dream, he hugged me and told me, "You did good, my love. Now they are going to learn." I woke up with a smile on my face. The appointed day arrived. It was a Friday afternoon. Charles had called me in the morning. "Mrs. Margaret, today at 4 in the afternoon, I will be at your house with the documents. Make sure your son and daughter-in-law are present." I made sure of that. I told Ryan I needed to talk to him and Brittany at 4. "It is important," I told him, "about me leaving the house." He nodded without suspecting a thing. At 4 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Charles was there with his leather briefcase, dressed impeccably in his dark gray suit. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Margaret," he said with a professional voice. "I am here to deliver some legal documents." Ryan and Brittany were in the living room. When they saw Charles, they were confused. "Who is this?" asked Brittany with suspicion. "He is my lawyer," I answered with a calm voice. "And he comes to clarify certain things about this house." Brittany's face went pale. Ryan stood up from the sofa. "Mom, what is going on here?" Charles took the documents out of his briefcase. "With your permission," he said, "I am attorney Charles Miller, and I represent Mrs. Margaret in property matters. I have come to deliver a legal notification." He extended an envelope to Ryan. "This is a formal notice to vacate. You have 30 days to vacate this property. If you do not do so voluntarily, we will proceed with a legal lawsuit and a judge will force you to leave. Furthermore, you could face charges for attempted misappropriation by having tried to illegally evict the owner of the property." The silence that followed was absolute. Ryan opened the envelope with trembling hands. He read the document, and his face lost all color. Brittany snatched the paper from him and began to read. Her eyes opened wider and wider. "This is a joke!" she screamed. "This cannot be real. This house is Ryan's. You said yourself it was his inheritance." Charles looked at me and I nodded. He continued speaking with a firm and professional voice. "Mrs. Margaret never said the house was anyone's inheritance. This property is registered solely in her name since it was built more than 30 years ago. She is the only legal owner. You have been living here as tolerated occupants, without a lease and without paying rent. The lady has been extremely generous in allowing you to stay all this time. But given that you handed her a fake eviction notice and attempted to illegally seize her property, she has decided to exercise her legal right to reclaim her home." Brittany started screaming. "This is ridiculous. We have lived here for years. We have taken care of this old lady. We have maintained the house. This is abuse." Charles interrupted her calmly. "Ma'am, I recommend you lower your voice and listen carefully. You have no legal right over this property. The notice you gave Mrs. Margaret was not only invalid but potentially criminal. You could face charges of fraud and intimidation of an elder. If I were you, I would cooperate and look for another place to live peacefully." Ryan was still in shock, looking at the papers. His hands were shaking. "Mom, this can't be happening. I am your son. This house should be mine. My father built it for the family." I stood up from my chair and looked him directly in the eyes. "Your father built this house for our family, Ryan. But you stopped being part of that family the day you allowed your wife to treat me like trash in my own home. This house represents your father's sweat and blood. Every brick, every window, every door he made thinking of giving us a dignified home. And you allowed a woman who never knew your father, who never knew what sacrifices we made for you, to humiliate me where he sheltered us with so much love. Ryan, you chose. Now live with the consequences of your choice." My son opened his mouth to answer, but the words did not come out. For the first time in years, I saw some real emotion in his eyes. But it was already too late. The damage was done. Years of humiliation were not erased with a look of belated regret. Brittany changed strategy. Suddenly her screams turned into crying. "Margaret, please, we are family. Think of the children. Where are Connor and Tyler going to live? You cannot do this to your own grandsons. You are leaving them on the street. What kind of grandmother does that?" Her acting was pathetic. Years of cheap theater trying to manipulate me. But this time it would not work. "My grandsons are going to be fine," I answered coldly. "You are adults with jobs. You can rent an apartment like any normal person. In fact, you should have done that years ago instead of taking advantage of my hospitality. And as for what kind of grandmother I am, ask yourself what kind of mother you are. One who taught her children to despise their grandmother. One who recorded my humiliation to entertain herself. One who turned my home into my hell. So do not talk to me about family, Brittany. You destroyed this family the day you entered it." Brittany fell silent. Her victim mask fell off, and for a moment I saw her true face. Pure hate, resentment, fury at having lost control. Charles proceeded to explain all the legal details to them. He informed them they had exactly 30 days to completely vacate the property. They had to take all their belongings and leave the house in the same condition they found it. If they caused any damage to the property during that time, they would face additional legal consequences. He also handed them a copy of my updated will, where it was crystal clear that Ryan would inherit nothing. The house and the lots were destined for other people and purposes. "This is your revenge," screamed Brittany, pointing her finger at me. "You are a bitter old woman who cannot stand seeing us happy. Ryan, we are not going to allow this. We are going to fight this in court. We are going to prove this house belongs to us." Charles smiled slightly. "Ma'am, you are free to hire a lawyer and fight whatever you like. But I warn you, it will be a waste of time and money. The property documents are absolutely clear. Mrs. Margaret has all her papers in order. Any judge will rule in her favor. I suggest you accept reality and use these 30 days to find a new home." After Charles left, the house fell into a tense silence. Ryan had locked himself in his room. Brittany walked back and forth in the living room talking on the phone with someone, probably her mother or some friend, telling her version of the story where she was the victim. I retired to my room feeling strangely calm. I had taken the first step. I had planted my flag. Now I just had to wait for the deadline. That night I heard Brittany and Ryan fighting in their room. Their voices came through the walls. "This is your fault," Brittany screamed. "I told you to put the house in your name years ago. I told you to force your mother to sign the papers for you. But you are useless. Now because of you, we are going to end up on the street." Ryan tried to defend himself. "She is my mother, Brittany. I could not force her to do anything. You were the one who insisted on treating her badly. You were the one who convinced me to give her that fake notice. I never wanted to reach this point." The fight continued for hours until they finally fell silent. The following days were uncomfortable but satisfying. Brittany no longer gave me orders. She did not even speak to me. She looked at me with pure hate every time we crossed paths in the house. Ryan avoided my gaze completely. Connor and Tyler noticed something was happening but did not understand what. "Mom, why are we packing things?" I heard Connor ask Brittany. "Because we are going to move to a better place," she answered with a forced, cheerful voice. "This house is very old. We need something more modern." I knew it was a lie. I knew they were desperate looking for somewhere to live. Ryan had started seeing apartments, but everything they found was out of their budget or in dangerous areas. The reality of having to pay rent, utilities, and all the expenses I had been covering for years was hitting them like a bucket of cold water. They had lived like parasites for so long they forgot how to live independently. 1 week after the meeting with Charles, I received a call. It was Ryan. "Mom, I need to talk to you." I went down to the living room where he was waiting for me. Brittany was not there. She had gone out with the kids. Ryan looked terrible. Deep dark circles, wrinkled clothes, unshaven beard. "Mom, please, reconsider," he began saying with a broken voice. "I know we messed up. I know Brittany crossed the line. But we are your family. We cannot find a place to live that we can afford. Apartments are super expensive. We have no savings. Please, give us more time. Or let us stay, and I promise everything will change." I looked at him without a shred of pity. "Ryan, 3 years ago I asked you to set boundaries with your wife. I asked you to defend me. I asked for respect in my own house. And you ignored me. You treated me as if I were the problem. Now you come asking for compassion because you are in trouble. Where was your compassion when your wife charged me to use my own washing machine? Where was your compassion when she recorded my humiliation at Christmas? Where was your compassion all those years you made me invisible in the home your father and I built for you?" Ryan began to cry. It was the first time I saw him cry since his father's funeral. "Mom, I am sorry. I really am sorry. I do not know at what moment I became this person. Brittany changed me little by little, and I did not realize it. But you are my mother. I cannot lose you, please." His tears did not move me. I had cried too many tears alone in my room to feel pity for his now. "You already lost me, Ryan," I told him with a firm voice. "You lost me the day you chose a toxic woman over the mother who gave you life. You lost me every time you stayed silent while she humiliated me. You lost me when you gave me that fake eviction notice at Christmas. The son I raised, that noble and loving boy, died years ago. I do not know who you are, but you are not my son. My son would never have treated me like this." Ryan covered his face with his hands, sobbing. I got up and went to my room. There was nothing else to say. That conversation was the last time we spoke before they left. The remaining days passed in a deathly silence. Day 29 arrived. Tomorrow the deadline was up. A moving truck arrived early in the morning. Ryan and Brittany began taking out their things. Furniture, boxes, clothes, the kids' toys. Everything they had accumulated during the years they lived in my house, I watched from my bedroom window. Brittany looked furious, throwing things into the truck carelessly. Ryan looked defeated, moving boxes like a robot. Connor and Tyler helped in silence. I could see the confusion on their faces. They did not understand why they had to leave, because Grandma was kicking them out. Brittany had taken charge of painting me as the villain, the bad grandma who is kicking us out onto the street. But someday, when they were older, they would know the truth. Someday I would give them the letters I was writing for them, explaining everything. For now, I could only let them leave and trust that time would reveal the truth. At 6 in the evening, the moving truck left. Ryan entered the house one last time to check they didn't forget anything. I went down the stairs and we met in the living room. We looked at each other for a long moment without saying anything. There was so much to say, and at the same time, nothing worth expressing. "Mom," was all he said. Just that word. "Mom," as if with it he could repair years of abandonment and mistreatment. I did not answer. I had no words for him. Ryan nodded his head, understanding there was no going back. He took the house keys out of his pocket and put them on the dining table. Then he left. The door closed behind him, and for the first time in years, the house was in complete silence. A beautiful, liberating silence. I walked through every room, feeling as if I were rediscovering my own home. I touched the walls Arthur built. I looked through the windows he installed. This house was mine again, completely mine. I sat in the living room and let the tears finally come out. But they were not tears of sadness. They were of liberation, of victory, of justice finally served. The following days I dedicated to cleaning the house from top to bottom. I wanted to erase every trace of Brittany. I washed the curtains. I scrubbed the floors. I opened all the windows so fresh air would come in. I took out the few things they had left forgotten and donated them. I put Arthur's photos back in their place of honor in the living room. I put fresh flowers in every room. I reorganized everything to my taste, and when I finished, the house felt different. It felt like home again. I moved into my new apartment as I had planned. I would leave the house closed for a time, keeping it in good condition until my grandsons were old enough to inherit it. But I needed to start my new life in a new space, without the ghosts of the mistreatment I had suffered within those walls. My apartment was small but cozy. It had everything I needed: a room with good light, a functional kitchen, a little balcony where I could drink coffee in the mornings, and best of all, it was in a building full of people my age who treated me with respect and kindness. In my building, I met Phyllis, a 68-year-old woman who lived in the apartment next door. She was a widow like me. She had lost her husband 10 years ago. We became friends quickly. We drank coffee together every morning. We went out walking in the afternoons. We told each other our life stories. When I told her what happened with Ryan and Brittany, she hugged me with tears in her eyes. "Margaret, you did the right thing," she told me. "No one, not even family, has the right to mistreat you. You are a brave woman." I also met Antonia, another neighbor in the building who organized yoga classes for seniors. She invited me to join, and I accepted. It had been decades since I exercised for myself. I had always been too busy taking care of others. I discovered I loved it. My body felt stronger, more flexible. My mind was clearer. For the first time in years, I was taking care of myself. The building also had a book club, movie nights, painting classes. I signed up for everything I could. I was rediscovering who I was beyond being a mother, beyond being a wife, beyond being the rejected grandmother. I was Margaret, a 70-year-old woman with a life still ahead of her. I began dressing better, fixing myself up more. I bought new clothes, cut my hair in a modern style. I looked in the mirror and saw a different woman, a woman who had regained her dignity, a woman who had learned to value herself. Phyllis always told me I looked 10 years younger. "You glow differently, Margaret. It is as if you took a huge weight off your shoulders." And she was right. I had taken off the weight of years of abuse, of years of feeling less than, of years of living trampled in my own house. Now I was free. 3 months after Ryan and Brittany left, I received an unexpected call. It was from a woman who identified herself as Laura, a friend of Brittany's. "Mrs. Margaret, I am calling you because you need to know something. Brittany and Ryan separated. She left him 2 weeks ago." I froze. What had happened? Laura explained to me that when Brittany realized there was really no inheritance, that Ryan was not going to receive anything from me, and that they were going to have to live on his salary alone, she began treating him worse and worse. She blamed him for everything. She humiliated him in front of the children. She compared him with other men who, according to her, did know how to be providers. One day, Ryan arrived from work and found the apartment empty. Brittany had taken the children and gone to live with another man, someone who apparently had more money. She left him a note, saying she had not gotten married to live in poverty, that she deserved something better. Ryan was destroyed, living alone in that apartment, working double to pay child support. Laura gave me his new address. I do not know what drove me to go, but one afternoon, I took a cab to Ryan's apartment. It was an old building in a not very good part of town. I went up 3 floors via narrow stairs and knocked on the door of number 12. Ryan opened. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, had a long and unkempt beard, deep dark circles under his eyes. "Mom," he said with a broken voice, "I didn't expect to see you." I entered without him inviting me. The apartment was small and depressing. A living room that also served as a dining room, a tiny kitchenette, probably a bedroom in the back. There was dirty laundry piled on the sofa, unwashed dishes in the sink. The place smelled of sadness and abandonment. Ryan sat on the sofa and covered his face with his hands. "I lost everything, Mom. I lost my wife. I lost my children. I lost you. I lost my home. And the worst part is I know it is my fault. It is all my fault." I sat beside him. A part of me wanted to console him, to hug him like when he was a child. But another part of me, the part that had suffered years of mistreatment, stood firm. "Ryan," I told him with a calm voice, "I did not come here to tell you everything is fine or that I forgive you. I came because you are my son, and you need to hear something important. What happened to you with Brittany is not my fault, nor is it your punishment for what you did to me. It is simply the natural consequence of marrying a woman who only wanted you for interest. She never loved you, she used you, and when you no longer served her, she discarded you. That has nothing to do with me." Ryan looked up. His eyes were red. "I know, Mom. I know. I was an idiot. I let myself be manipulated. I changed completely. And now, not only did I lose you, but I also lost my children. Brittany won't let me see them. She says first I have to give her more money for support, but I can barely pay rent on this place." I explained something he needed to understand. "Ryan, about your children, we have to talk. I made a will where your children, my grandsons, are going to inherit the house and one of the lots when they turn 25. That is protected in a trust. Neither you nor Brittany can touch that money or those properties. It is for Connor and Tyler solely. I also left them letters explaining the whole truth of what happened. When they are older and can understand, they will know their grandmother did not abandon them. They will know their father allowed them to be pushed away from me. They will know their mother was a toxic person. And they will have to decide what kind of relationship they want to have with you based on that truth." Ryan assimilated my words slowly. "That is more than I deserve," he said finally. "It is more than I gave to you. Thank you for thinking of my children despite everything. I do it for them, not for you. They are innocent in all this. They are not to blame for the mistakes we parents made." Before leaving, I told him something else. "Ryan, if you really want to rebuild your life, you need to start with yourself. Seek help, go to therapy, understand how you reached this point. Learn to value yourself enough not to let anyone else manipulate you. And when your children are older, when they can decide for themselves if they want to have a relationship with you, make sure you are a man they can be proud of. Not the weak man who allowed abuse of his mother. Not the man who let himself be used by a gold digger. Be the man your father wanted you to be." Ryan wept. They were genuine tears of regret and pain. "I am so sorry, Mom. I am sorry for everything. For every insult I allowed. For every humiliation I did not stop. For failing you when you needed me most. I am sorry for not being the son you and Dad deserved." His apologies did not erase the damage, but at least they showed he finally understood the magnitude of his mistakes. I got up to leave. "Ryan, one last thing," I told him from the door. "Forgiveness is not asked for, it is earned. If you really want my forgiveness someday, prove it with actions. Become a better man, fight to see your children. Be a good father to them despite everything. And perhaps, just perhaps, in some years we can have some type of relationship, but it will be on my terms, not yours." I left that apartment with mixed feelings. I had seen my son broken, humiliated by life in the same way he allowed me to be humiliated. A cruel part of me felt satisfaction, but another part, the part that never stopped being a mother, felt sadness for the destroyed man he had become. However, I maintained my resolve. Forgiveness would not be easy or quick. Ryan had a long road to travel, and I had my own life to rebuild. The following months were of deep healing. I continued with my yoga classes, the book club, outings with Phyllis and Antonia. But I also started something new. I joined as a volunteer at the nursing home where I had decided to donate part of my inheritance. It was a beautiful place called Sunshine Home, where they treated the elderly with dignity and love. There I helped with recreational activities. I read to those with vision problems. I simply kept company with those who received no visits. Every time I saw an elderly person abandoned by their family, I thought about how close I came to ending up like that. But I had fought for my dignity, and I had won, and now I could use my experience to help others. The residents adored me. They told me I had a special energy, that my smile lit up their days. I told them parts of my story, how I had faced abuse and reclaimed my life. Many cried listening to me. They saw themselves reflected in my story. And it gave them hope to know it is never too late to defend yourself, to demand respect, to live with dignity. The director of the nursing home, a woman named Isabel, asked me to give a talk to all the families about elder abuse. I accepted, although I was nervous. On the day of the talk, there were more than 50 people in the auditorium. Families visiting their grandparents, workers from the home, other volunteers. I went up to the small stage with my legs shaking. But when I began to speak, the words flowed naturally. I told them my complete story. How my husband and I built a life from poverty. How we raised our house brick by brick. How I raised my son with infinite love. How that son betrayed me when he married a toxic woman. How I lived years of humiliation in my own home. And how I finally found the courage to defend myself. When I finished, there was absolute silence. Then the applause began. People with tears in their eyes approached to hug me. An older lady told me, "Thank you. I needed to hear this. My daughter treats me badly and I thought I had to put up with it because she is family. But you taught me that respect is not optional, not even with family." 1 year after everything happened, on an October afternoon, I received a call that would change everything again. It was from an unknown number. I answered with caution. "Grandma," said a young and trembling voice. "It's Connor." My heart stopped. My oldest grandson. He was already 14 years old. I had not spoken to him since the day they left my house. "Connor," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "How did you get my number?" "Dad gave it to me," he explained. "Grandma, I need to talk to you. I have discovered many things, and I need to know your version of the story. Can I see you?" "Of course you can," I told him without hesitation. "When do you want to come?" We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop near my apartment. That night I could not sleep. I was going to see my grandson after a year. What would I say to him? How would I find him? Would he be angry with me? Would he blame me for kicking them out? I arrived at the coffee shop 30 minutes early. I ordered a tea and sat by the window. At the exact time, I saw Connor enter. He had grown so much in a year. He was almost a young man now, tall, with features that reminded me so much of his grandfather. He saw me and walked toward me with an unsure step. We looked at each other for a long moment. Then he sat in front of me. "Grandma," he began saying with a serious voice, "during this whole year Mom told us you had kicked us out because you were mean, because you didn't love us. But 2 weeks ago I found some documents in Dad's things. They were copies of everything that happened. The fake eviction notice they gave you, the lawyer's documents, and I also found something else. A video on Mom's old phone. The video of Christmas dinner where they humiliated you." My heart raced. Connor had seen the video Brittany recorded of my humiliation. "I saw everything, Grandma." He continued with tears in his eyes. "I saw how Mom laughed. I saw how they gave you that paper. I saw your face of pain. And I realized they lied to us all this time. You didn't kick us out. They kicked you out first. And you just defended yourself." Tears began to run down my cheeks. "I wanted to tell you, Connor. I wanted to explain everything to you, but you were very young. I didn't want to put you in the middle of adult problems." He shook his head. "Grandma, I saw everything. For years I saw how Mom treated you badly. I was a kid, but I wasn't blind. I saw how she talked to you, how she gave you orders, how she made you feel small, and Dad never defended you. I didn't defend you either, and I feel terrible about that. I should have said something. I should have done something." I grabbed his hands across the table. "You were a child, Connor. It was not your responsibility to defend me. It was your father's responsibility. And he failed. But you are not to blame for anything," Connor cried openly. "I miss you, Grandma. I miss when I was little and you took care of me. I miss your stories about Grandpa. I miss feeling like I had a grandma who loved me. Mom now lives with another guy who has money. He buys us things, but he doesn't love us. He just wants to impress his girlfriend by showing he is a good dad. And Dad is so sad all the time. He lives alone in an ugly place. We see him every 15 days, and he spends the time asking us for forgiveness for everything." I told Connor about the trust. I explained that when he turned 25, he would inherit the house along with his brother, that his grandfather and I had worked a lifetime to give them a secure future, that I had never abandoned them despite everything. His eyes opened with surprise. "The house is going to be ours? Tyler's and mine?" I nodded. "Yes. And there are letters I wrote for you explaining the whole story when you are older. I want you to know the complete truth. to know who your grandfather was, to know I always loved you even when I couldn't show it to you. Connor wiped his tears. Can I keep seeing you, Grandma? Can I come visit you often? I don't want to wait 11 years to inherit the house. I want to know you now. I want to make up for lost time, my heart filled with a joy I had not felt in years. Of course you can, my love. You can come whenever you want. You will always have a place with me. You will always be welcome in my life. From that day, Connor began visiting me every week. He came after school. We drank hot chocolate. We talked about everything. I told him stories about his grandfather, how we built the house, the life we had. He told me about school, his dreams, his fears. He introduced me to Phyllis and Antonia. They adored him immediately. After 2 months, Tyler also started coming. He was shyer than Connor. He was 12 years old and at first did not know how to act with me. But little by little he opened up. I discovered he loved to draw. I bought him professional art supplies, and his eyes shone with excitement. No one had ever given him something like that. Sundays became our sacred day. My grandsons came to my apartment. We cooked together. We watched movies. We simply enjoyed being a family. The real family, the one built with love and respect, not the one maintained by obligation. I talked to them about values, dignity, the importance of treating people well, especially the elderly who gave everything for their families. Ryan tried to get closer a few times. He called me about every month. The conversations were short and awkward. He told me how he was trying to improve his life. He had started therapy, as I suggested. He was working 2 jobs to afford a better apartment and see his children more often. He asked for my forgiveness constantly. I listened to him, but I did not give him the forgiveness he sought. Not yet. Real forgiveness would take time. I needed to see sustained changes, not just words. I needed to see that he had really become a better man. For now, we maintained a distant but civilized relationship. He respected my boundaries. He did not pressure me, and I appreciated that. Maybe someday we could rebuild something. But it would be a new relationship, different, based on mutual respect, and not on the traditional mother-son dynamic we had before. 2 years after everything happened, I was sitting on my balcony drinking coffee one Sunday morning. Connor and Tyler would arrive soon to spend the day with me. I looked toward the horizon and thought about the entire journey traveled. I had gone from being a broken woman, humiliated in her own home, to being a free, respected woman surrounded by genuine love. I had regained my dignity. I had regained my life. And most importantly, I had regained the relationship with my grandsons. I thought of Arthur, my beloved husband, and spoke to him in my mind as I did every morning. I did it, love. I defended what we built. I protected our legacy. And our grandsons are going to know who we really were. They are going to know what hard work, sacrifice, and true love mean. Thank you for giving me the tools to fight. Thank you for those lots you kept in secret. You saved me even after your death. The sun rose completely, illuminating the city. And I smiled. Because I had learned the most important lesson of my life. If someone treats you like a burden, even if it is family, you have every right to say enough. Respect is not negotiated. Dignity has no price. And never, ever, is it too late to defend yourself and claim the life you deserve. I did it at 70 years old. And if I could, anyone can. My name is Margaret. I am now 72 years old. And this is my story of how I got my life back. Tell me, where are you listening to this? Have you gone through something similar? Remember always that you deserve respect. You deserve love. You deserve dignity, no matter your age. No matter your situation. Never allow anyone to make you feel less than what you are worth. Because you, just like me, are valuable. You are strong. And you deserve to be happy.